run because I had the drag show on as well. In that was the same area all that happened.
Yeah.
And it was by because that was because we walked past it like every day to get down to the beach.
It's because it was more touristy, wasn't it? I mean, it'd be a bit of a shame to to drive all the way down there
just for the mini golf.
Just for the mini golf. There has to be one more local. There has to be.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to go on a hunt for it, I think.
Have a little Google before we go.
Yeah. Sounds good. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Goblins, a live show. Hope you're doing well. We've got a very, very interesting show for you today where we are going to rate how good wikiHow is at explaining how to ride a motorcycle. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of people these days, the very first thing they'll probably do if they want to learn how to ride is go to Google and they'll put in how to ride a motorcycle. And the very first thing that you'll probably get is a wikiHow link. So I've not seen this before. So we'll see if it does translate or whether or not it's a load of old hogwash. Hogwash.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm curious about this. We're also going to look through some Quora Digest bits and pieces as well in today's show, just in case there's any more valuable information in there because of it's community-led. So maybe it'll be a bit better, maybe it won't. Maybe we'll get some contradictory things being said on Quora Digest. So yeah, we'll see how we get on today. But are you ready, wifey?
I'm ready.
Let's roll the intro. What's going on, wifey? The wifey's got a lot of stories to tell this week.
God, haven't I?
You might be able to see the crutch behind me.
That's mine.
That's the wifey. She's she's hobbling.
Decided to go back to the gym on Monday. Haven't been for a while. You said this is a warm up. Don't take it.
Don't go too hard.
Don't go too hard. So and
So
literally within a split second of doing that, I'd hurt myself quite badly, and
well, she.
Oh, no, don't say anything yet.
Okay.
And then you were like, "Is it cramp?" I said, "No." So I think I pulled a muscle. I'm just gonna go walk it off, and I was like, oh, "This is really painful." Sat down, and you were like examining me, and I've torn a calf muscle.
Yep.
So that was Monday. And then to add insult to injury, on Tuesday, I decided to pass out. And you guys, I'm not wearing makeup because it hurts too much to put on. I've got a bruise. I've got a bump bruise from here to here. I've bruised my eye socket. I've bruised here.
Well, and her nose was bleeding because your face hit the ground
Yeah.
pretty hard.
Well,
I mean, I heard the thump.
I blacked out, and you can't really brace yourself when you black out. You just go. But because of how I landed on the roller. The door goes along, doesn't it, with my hips and my back are done in. My neck hurts where I've jarred that. I can't put any pressure on my foot without it being an absolute agony and actually reducing me to tears. So yeah, it's
what a silly sausage.
But I've been really well looked after, to be fair. So I am on crutches at the moment.
Yeah,
because
we've got Dr. Pug on duty.
Oh, he didn't leave me alone. It's amazing.
He's been brilliant.
But I think the thing is, on Tuesday, because when I came round, you said, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I don't know," because the thing is,
you say that, but I was there, like shouting through the door, "What the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? You know, are you all right?" kind of thing. And all I could hear was like this snoring. She was like, and it was because her face was on the hard floor and she couldn't breathe properly.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to go in the room because she was in there having a wee, so I didn't want to
tell the whole world what I was doing in there.
Right.
Oh.
I wanted to be, I don't know, I didn't want to, just in case there was something going on that, I don't know, you didn't want to say or something, so I didn't want to go in the room. But yeah, no, she was flat out, but luckily you did come around after about 10 seconds or so. You came around, and I was able to kind of find out what would have been happening.
Because the thing is, I think the thing you've got to appreciate is that 1 minute I'm looking at a towel rail, and the next minute I open my eyes and I'm in white.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing you think of is, what the F has happened? Have I died? Because it's just white all of a sudden.
Stay away from the light.
And all I could hear, do you know what the weird thing was? I don't think I've told you this. I was dreaming.
Oh, really?
And I could hear you saying, babe, what's happened? Babe, I don't think I heard you say it once or twice, actually. And then I came round and I was like, I don't know. And my hair was dripping wet because it's a shower tray. Of course it would be. And I was like, what's this? I went like that. And I just had a hand of blood.
Yeah.
And I then had to text my boss, being like, I'm not going to be in today.
One thing after another. You don't do things by halves, do you, wifey?
Absolutely not.
You don't injure yourself by half.
So that's, yeah. So I've been off work yesterday and the day before. Slowly easing myself back into it today because it's just tiring.
Yeah, but I think compared to what you were like on Tuesday, I think
I'm a whole different person.
Yeah, you've definitely come along quite well.
The thing is, on Tuesday I was feeling nauseous and dizzy and I had a headache and all of that combined, and today I'm just achy and I can't walk and it's tiring. But I did call 111, guys. I am fine. The bump on the head was fine. There's nothing to worry about. It's just a case of resting up my leg. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't improve, then I need to go over x-rays, is what they've said. So it's
just a torn muscle. I mean, if any of you guys have had torn muscles before, they are very, very painful, especially the first 24 hours. They can be extremely painful because any slight movement around that muscle area and it just hurts like hell.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean...
Yeah.
I didn't really sleep Tuesday night, did I? I think I fell asleep at 3:30 and woke up again at...
Well, that's the next thing, isn't it? Is trying to get to sleep. How can you put yourself in a comfortable position to try and sleep, you know?
The problem is, I've hurt my left leg, and because it's the back, it's easier to lie on my side with my leg on top, which means I lie on this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not even like I've hurt half my body. I've hurt both sides. So... Yeah.
Anyway, let us know your sympathies in the chat, please, for the wifey.
Or just laugh, it's fine.
And sympathies for me as well, because I've got to look after her and do all the house chores and everything now, because she literally can't do anything at the moment.
Yeah. No, it's true. I actually can't.
Anyway, I mean, you got something out of it though, didn't you?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a little toy to play with, didn't you?
To keep me entertained.
Yeah, a little iPad mini.
Little iPad mini.
Yeah.
To play tapped out on. No, I'm joking. Partly.
Well, it's mainly for e-reading, isn't it?
Yeah, and also taking it abroad and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that greatly entertained me yesterday. And you were putting me on the little office chair, weren't you, in curries and wheeling me around. That was fun. I enjoyed that. So, I don't do... It's not like I was like, how can I get an iPad? I know.
Yeah.
I'll do this. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
How are you? Are you fed up of looking after me yet?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm alright. it's okay. It's not been. You haven't been too needy, so it's alright.
I tried not to be.
Yeah. No. Not too bad.
To be fair,
there's no one in the house anymore.
Ghosts.
He's looking at next door. Next door have moved out, and he's looking through the window. There's nothing there.
There must
Literally, mate. There's nothing there. All right, go on then. Go get him.
Anyway, shall we?
All right.
Enough about me.
All right. So today's show, everyone, as I mentioned in the intro, we are going to be rating how good wikiHow is at teaching you how to ride a motorcycle. Now, I'm very skeptical of this. I've not seen this page before, so my kind of like initial analysis is what you're going to get today. But it's, I mean, well, we'll see how much the wifey thinks is legit or not as well.
Yeah.
And we'll have a little look on Quora Digest as well in a little bit and see what's going on
I'll
that
be honest.
end.
We might. Hopefully, we'll have time to at least touch on at least one part of Quora Digest. But this is. I've not read this. I have vetted it to just see what it's like. What the
if it's what we're looking for, kind of thing, basically, for the show.
But this comes in 4 parts, I believe. So that we'll see. We will see what they think. I don't know how I imagine this is just one person. Oh, so it's been co-authored by someone. It's not like a...
Co-author, it says here 53. Oh, okay, and this was updated.
This year.
Updated in March this year.
Yeah, okay, well...
And it's had 500,000 views, this page.
And 100% of people found it helpful. That's only 4 votes.
Oh,
So.
only 4 votes. All right. Well,
all those 4 people liked
it. We will
it.
add in our own votes here.
Okay.
At the end of the show, but I mean, okay. I imagine these are the different sections here.
Yes.
So we've got license, registration, gear, basic controls, riding techniques, a video. Okay, that's good.
The only
Q&A,
thing
tips and warnings.
that I don't know actually is if this is directed to a UK audience or an American audience.
Well, I mean, in terms of like licensing and that, it's going to be different. But in terms of how to ride the motorcycle, it's going to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, but the first bit might be.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
let's see. I mean, well, so they say here, motorcycles are fun vehicles that allow you to experience the open road. However, it's critical that you learn to ride in a controlled and safe way. Take a motorcycle safety course and get a permit or license if it is required in your region. Wow. Okay, there's still places where you don't have to do any licenses. Okay, fair enough. Well, that might be true but even like in Burma and in Thailand, you've got to do like motorcycle courses. They're not that comprehensive, but at least they've got something in place. Anyway, it says here, before you start to ride, purchase safety gear and get to know how your bike handles. With a little time and practice, you'll be ready to cruise around on your bike. Wow, okay. With a little time, it says. I don't know if I agree with that. But with a little time.
But that's subjective. To you, little time might be a week. To me, that might be a year.
Yeah.
That is subjective.
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
From that point of view. But I mean, for the most part, I mean, that statement I do agree with. That's the funny thing, okay? You can buy a motorcycle, even in the UK, and I'm pretty sure in Europe as well, you can buy a motorcycle and you can learn to ride that bike without any help. As long as you have, at least here in the UK, as long as you have a CBT, then you can, and to be fair, you can buy a motorcycle beforehand. You can do your CBT on your bike if you really wanted to, if you wanted some specific tips and tricks on your particular motorcycle. But there's, honestly, because I was saying this to a mate the other day who literally, unfortunately, he didn't pass his driving test. And even though he should have passed it because he just missed a speed sign, basically, that was it. Well, it went from 50 to 30.
Yeah, it was slightly over.
So stupid. And he was doing 37 when he hit the sign.
Yeah.
Not literally hit the sign, but as he went past the sign.
He didn't fail because he hit the sign.
But I was saying to him, you can just buy a car. Buy a car, insure it, as long as you've got a provisional license, and as long as you have someone that's over the age of 21 that's got a full driving license, then you can go around in your cars as long as you've got them with you. So, you know, you can buy a motorcycle, you can practice on a motorcycle, and you can buy a car legally here in the UK without having a license, and you're allowed to ride it and drive it. As long as in the car, like I mentioned, you've got someone else with you that does have a full driving license. And, I mean, unfortunately, with a motorcycle, you do have to do your CBT pretty much first. But I'm going up and down your street, I'm sure it'll be fine, you know? If you live in a cul-de-sac in particular where it's quite quiet, I don't think anyone's going to really say anything as long as you're insured and you've got a provisional license.
And you're not doing anything stupid.
I think you'll be all right. Just doing the basics up and down the road, even if it's just going in a straight line, learning the clutch control and things like that. I mean, by the way, we've got quite a load of videos on how to ride a motorcycle and things like that. So, I mean, I do have a playlist, which I might link in the video description after the show, if I remember. With all the different things that we have covered in the past. And most of it's on the Wifey's 125 because here in the UK it's the most apt. That is what you're going to be learning on if you're starting to ride. So, but anyway, yeah, it's just wanted to plug in our own stuff in there.
Shall we get on with this then?
All right, okay. So, I mean, the very first thing is, if I show you guys, getting a license and registering your bike. Okay, well, yeah. Pretty much. Let's see what it says about the gear. Okay, so it hasn't actually mentioned anything about riding gear just yet.
This is in part 2.
Okay, I would recommend getting your gear before you do anything else. Yeah, you got to get a helmet, of course. This isn't a good illustration, is it? Look, he's in a t-shirt. He's just wearing a helmet. Right? This ain't good. Okay, this illustration is not very good. You should have at least your helmet. You should have at least a jacket. It doesn't have to necessarily be a riding jacket, but just something to give you a bit of padding. You have to have some gloves as well. And boots are heavily recommended as well. Getting a decent pair of motorcycle boots.
Look at his feet.
He's basically wearing Crocs. He's not even wearing any socks, man. Honestly, who is this guy? Anyway, I mean, well, let's move on to because this is all dependent on where you live. I imagine this is probably in the United States, so this is probably relevant information if you live there.
It says about registering your motorbike and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I suppose this is good here. Check your bike to make sure it's in working condition. So check your tire and air pressure with a pressure gauge and feel them if they're low. Okay, it would have been nice if there was a more of a detailed reference about what pressure is good and what pressure is bad.
It is wikiHow, though.
By the way, on every single motorcycle, I'm pretty sure every single motorcycle, there's a little label on the swing arm. So the thing that connects the rear wheel to the bike, on one side, that's called the swing arm, the bar that connects it. On one side, you'll have a little label there that will give you the details of how much pressure you need in each of your tires. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. It says, look at your brake fluid and oil levels. Make sure they're filled correctly. Yes, I mean, you don't have to do this before every ride. I think you can be a bit OTT with this kind of stuff. I don't check this stuff before every day I go out and ride. I don't think anyone does. Right? Check it once a month. Once a month should be fine. If you have an older bike, however, then definitely at least check the brake fluid. Definitely at least check the oil a bit more regularly. I mean, we've had viewers of the show that have, they've left a message in the chat saying there was no oil in the bike and it blew up. And unfortunately, that kind of stuff can happen. And it's really easy to check. The most obvious check is to just check the ground. Make sure there's no marks on the ground from any fluids whatsoever, especially if your bike has been covered or it's in a garage or something like that, and you see like a little, even if it's just a few drops of something, it could be coolant, could be brake fluid, it could be oil. All right. If you see that, investigate where it's coming from, and then hopefully one day you'll catch it before it's too late. Basically, and you'll save yourself a hassle, and you save your bike as well in the process.
On your CBT, they say that there's daily and weekly checks that you should do. I can't exactly remember what they all are right now.
The daily checks are going to be your brakes and your tires mainly. But make sure you've got no flats. Make sure that your brakes are working. Basically, that's going to be it when it comes to daily checks. But honestly, because when you buy a motorcycle, the best thing to do is to inspect it as you buy it. So you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. You know if it's low on oil. You know if it's low on brake fluid, or the brake fluid's got a really dark brake fluid. What else? I mean, you'll know if the tires are in good nick or not. When you start the bike, you'll be able to hear it if it sounds all right. If there's any weird knocking, any weird strange noises, you can search on forums about what that could be. So that should be the inspection that you do when you actually buy the bike. Because when it's in your possession, well, you want to know if it's got oil. You want to know if it's got all the stuff that it should have. Yeah? So it's a bit over the top, if I'm being honest, checking your bike every single day, in my opinion. You shouldn't need to do that. If you know your bike inside and out, you shouldn't worry about that. It should be obvious to you. Like as soon as you see a puddle on the floor or something, you know it's a big deal. You know it could be a problem. As soon as you roll the bike forward and back, you can pretty much tell if there's something wrong with the brakes or if there's something wrong with the tires straight away. So you have to get to know your bike though. All right, just spend a little bit of time finding out where everything is, find out where the oil filter is, find out where the oil drain bolt is, find out where the coolant reservoir is, find out how to take off pieces of fairing, things like that. Obviously, I mean, the brake fluid reservoirs are fairly straightforward to see. So just get to know your bike, and these issues shouldn't be issues, really. What's going on here? I think my mouse has bit the dust. Hang on. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay. What else? So it says needle on the ground to visually inspect the brake pads and chain. Chains are pretty hardy things. Even if they look quite corroded, they'll still work. But you do have to maintain them. So give them a good clean. We have got a video on that as well, how to clean your chains properly and how to lube them properly as well. Brake pads. Brake pads are difficult to inspect on the bike. The best thing to do is actually take them off. At least that'll give you the best perspective on the thickness of the brake pad itself. You can look just at the brake pad itself and see the thickness of the pad, but some of the what they call the clips, like the springs at the back, certain parts of the caliper might block your vision of the brake pad itself. So I mean, if you feel confident in that kind of thing, then I'd do that. Just take it off the caliper. It's fairly straightforward if it's disc brakes anyway. But if you're not comfortable with that, then take it to a mechanic or something like that, and they'll be able to tell you straight away. Okay, so brake pads and chain, make sure they aren't worn down or rusted. If anything looks wrong on your bike, don't ride it. That is a very difficult statement. That if anything looks wrong on your bike, don't ride it, because you're not going to know. You're not going to know what looks right and what looks wrong necessarily. You're starting off riding. You know, you're not necessarily going to know straight away.
I guess it means like if your chain looks a bit weird, don't ride.
What I would say instead of this is that have a second opinion. That's what I'd say. That's what I'd suggest. Get a second opinion. Get someone else to come and look at the bike. If they've got motorcycle experience already, then that's also beneficial, but they don't necessarily have to. But they might be more insightful as to whether or not something like this is off. Yeah. Again, you can test the brakes. All you have to do is just sit on the bike, move the bike forward and back, hold the brake down, and make sure that the brake the brake caliper itself bites, and that should be all right. Honestly, the worst thing that will happen with a rusty chain or a worn down chain is it will come off the sprocket, the rear sprocket. That's it. Okay. If the chain is flopping about a little bit, then you might damage certain parts of the bike, but it's not really going to be a big deal. And this only really applies to bikes that are pretty old as well. You know, you're looking at pre-2010, 2005, things like that. That's probably when you might want to start looking at changing the chains. I mean, what these days? What's the lifespan of a motorcycle chain these days? I'm not 100% sure. Is it 15k miles, 20k miles? They're pretty hardy things, to be honest. I mean, as long as you keep them lubed up and as long as you keep them clean, they'll pretty much last forever, at least throughout your ownership of the bike, as long as you look after it. So I don't know. The chain is one of the hardest wearing things on the bike. So I wouldn't worry about that so much if it's rusty. You know, as long as the wheel moves freely and there's no kinks in the chain that you can see as you're moving it, then you should be all right. Anyway, says they test your turning lights, turn signals. Yeah, okay, that's pretty obvious. There's nothing else. Okay. I mean, I would, if this is a new bike to you as well, I'd check the dashboard. Check the dashboard, make sure there's no like oil lights popping up, make sure there's no DFI lights popping up, direct fuel injection lights, by the way. Make sure there's no odd things that are on the dashboard showing up, because that could give you a pretty good indicator as to whether or not the bike's in decent health.
I mean, just looking at
especially if it's a modern bike anyway.
I mean, if you take it that you're going to do all this in order of what this says, you've already got the bike and licensed it by this point. Yeah. So this isn't you buying a bike. This is...
I mean, I don't know if this is the way how it's supposed to come across, but it comes across to me like this is based on if you bought a brand new motorcycle.
No, it's not to me.
It's not?
Because, look, if you look, part... Oh, what are you doing there?
Because you wouldn't license your bike. You'd already be licensed.
But it says, no, registering your bike. So you register your motorcycle, step 4. Step 5, get insurance for it. Step 6, check it works. Okay, but
again, so this is where the difference, though, between the UK and the United States is a bit different. Once you register a vehicle, you registered it. It doesn't matter. The only thing that changes is the ownership of that vehicle, the V5C. That's literally it. So, I mean, do you have to check? There's something about titles. I know in the United States they have titles. So, But I don't know how any of that works. All right, so that's something else you'll have to have a look at if you do live over in the United States, or any of you in the United States watching right now. Drop it in the chat. Okay, let us know what it's like registering a motorcycle in the United States, titling and things like that, because I haven't got a clue.
Let's move on. So we're only on part 2.
Okay. Right, this should be pretty straightforward though. The gear. All right. Let's have a look. All right. So purchase a helmet. Yes. Okay. Definitely purchase a helmet. Purchase a good one. I mean, okay. It says it's got some pretty good little piece of information here. Department of Transportation, European Commission, ECE stickers. 'Cause that's how you can tell they're legit. Even if they are a 40, 50 quid helmet, as long as they've got something like this, it means they're certified. Okay, so they should protect you in the event of a crash, at least to some extent.
And on your CBT, if your helmet hasn't got it, they won't let you take your CBT.
Good tip. Top tip right there.
They will check.
Yep.
From my experience, they check you've got that on there before they let you out.
Do not wear helmets with tinted visors when visibility is low or running at night. Okay, yeah, that's fairly obvious to me. Helmets usually have ventilation systems, so your head will stay cool in hot weather. Yes and no. Some helmets have better ventilation systems than others. Not all locations require you to wear a helmet when you ride. Check with your local laws to find out. Ignore this. Ignore this statement right here. Always wear a helmet. Doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter if it's legal or not. You buy a helmet and you wear a damn helmet. Simple as that. Okay? Ignore that statement.
Yeah.
Ignore that statement. And even if they had that there, they should say in brackets, of course, we recommend you wear a helmet regardless. That's what they should say.
If you like living, wear a helmet.
This guy seems chuffed, doesn't he?
That's a lady.
That's not a lady.
It is a lady.
Look at that jawline. That's not a lady.
She's a strong, independent woman.
It probably is. Okay. Right, get a snug jacket made of sturdy material. Okay. Jackets made of leather or strong synthetic material will work the best for most protection. Find jackets with lightweight body armor on your shoulders and elbows, so you're less prone to injury if you get into an accident.
What about your back?
Well,
those Kevlar jackets.
Again, they make it's a very, very general statement here. Get a snug jacket made of sturdy material. Well, what is sturdy material?
They do go on to say, though, jackets made of leather or strong synthetic material work best.
What does that mean?
That's what Google's there for.
But is it, though? Again, you don't necessarily know what you're buying here. You can buy a leather jacket from Superdry for about 100 quid and think that it's actually good for riding a motorcycle.
But these...
Guess what? I have one of those and I've worn it before. It is useless
Same.
at riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay,
too.
if you come off of it, it's going to rip you up. Simple as it won't protect you whatsoever. So no, you can't just buy a leather jacket. I'd always recommend you buy something from a reputable brand, something that is designed for riding motorcycles. Okay. I mean, again, if you just type in motorcycle jacket into Google, you might not necessarily get the right results. You'll get like fashion brands that are advertising motorcycle jackets, but they're not actually designed for you to ride. They just have that look, you know?
When I got my pink one, I got that off eBay.
Yeah. But we knew what we were looking for.
Yeah. Because I knew Alpine Star was the brand I was looking for.
So more often than not, I mean, Alpine Star is one of the big brands when it comes to motorcycle equipment, motorcycle helmets, boots, jackets,
Protection.
whatever, pretty much any kind of protection. You get an Alpine Star version of it. When you look at that stuff, you can see that it's padded on the shoulders. You can see it's padded on the elbows. If you buy the leggings, you can see it's padded on the knees. If not, it'll actually have an even harder surface on the knees as well. If you're one of those riders that tries to drag knee all the time, you'll have a little rubber pad there as well. And of course, boots as well. You'll see that they're reinforced. You'll see that they are designed for riding motorcycles because they'll look different. They'll look a bit bulkier. They'll look a bit bigger than a regular leather jacket would. So, okay. I mean, that's what I'd recommend. For your information as well, when it comes to sturdy material, Kevlar is pretty much the best stuff for protection. So if you do find a jacket and it advertises that it's got Kevlar padding, especially on the joints, then you're going to be in pretty good shape. Now, you mentioned the back protection earlier. From my experience, most jackets don't have any back protection.
I think my pink one does.
I don't think it does. It doesn't have any protective
it doesn't
padding there.
It doesn't like fold like a normal jacket is when you put it down. It stays quite flat at the back, which makes me think there's something in there.
No. It's same as my jacket. It's just leather on the back for mine, and it'll be synthetic material for yours. synthetic fabric. But no, it's only usually for racing jackets, racing protective gears when you'll find back protection, usually. Which makes, to be honest, more sense. And I don't think you have to get a jacket with back protection, but I'll leave that up to you. All right, so it says here about finding a jacket with reflectors built into the fabric to make it more visible for vehicles. It's lame. It's lame. You shouldn't need it. All right, you're riding a motorcycle with lights on it, and most bikes, if not all bikes, past 2005, you can't turn the lights off. They are on automatically as soon as you start the bike. So a light beam is going to be far more detectable than some kind of reflective nonsense on your shoulder or on your arm. Okay, so no, I don't think you have to have any reflective tape. It's up to you. If you want to, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, by all means, go for it. But it's not something I would do personally. There's
some really interesting articles out there about which colours are seen easier by other motorists.
Well, it's like that, the tennis ball green, isn't it? It's supposed to be one of the big ones, isn't it? And you got like neon pink as well. It's supposed to be quite good.
But things like, I think white is a really bad colour to wear, they say, because it's... I can't remember, don't come at me because I can't remember exact details.
Yeah.
But there's articles out there, if you don't want to wear reflective tape, go and have a look and see what are the best colours for riding motorbikes.
Well, so the wisdom that I have heard, now again, this is just hearsay, all right? So there's no scientific evidence to back this up from as far as I'm aware. But from what I've been told, the best combinations to get are contrasting colours. So if you have a motorcycle like me that is green, I'm wearing a red jacket. Okay, contrasting colours, because then it's supposed to make it easier for someone to see, because it looks odd, it looks different.
I know I made a joke of it in that smooth brain pillion one.
Yeah.
But that pink jacket, it gets people's attention because they're like, oh my god, it's a pink jacket. Like, yeah. And it's a pink jacket on a lime green bike.
I was going to say, it's not necessarily about the colour of the jacket itself, it's the contrast between you and the background.
Yeah.
So, like, there's going to be nothing else that you're going to be riding past that's going to be bright pink. Is
no.
That, you know? It's like you ride a green bike can camouflage itself with the background. A red jacket can't. If you see both things together moving, then you know that something's there.
Yeah.
And I'll say this as well. It doesn't matter how much you do in terms of how much visibility you try to give yourself. It's not necessarily going to help anyway. All right? You will just find drivers out there that will just pull out in front of you and they'll say, sorry, I didn't see you. Okay, anyway, regardless, yeah, it doesn't matter how big your bike is, doesn't matter how many lights you've got, how bright the lights are, or how many reflectors you've got. Actually, that could be a really funny video. Get a motorcycle and just wrap it in reflective tape. Just wrap it and yourself in reflective tape to see if you are actually more visible or not to people. You'd only be more visible because people will be like, what the hell is that guy doing? You know? People will be like more in shock than anything else.
You look like a right idiot, wouldn't
but
you?
that would be hilarious. Okay. Essentially, wear long pants to protect your legs. Okay, so wear long trousers. Yes, I think that is pretty much standard. Again, you'll see people wearing shorts as well.
And
don't do it. Yeah, flip flops. Yeah, and Crocs. Don't do it. Yeah, wear long trousers. I do have a set of motorcycle trousers. I very rarely wear them. I've mentioned this before. I just wear normal denim jeans. They're nothing special. They're from Tesco or bloody ASOS or something like that. They're nothing special. That's my choice. My choice. If you want the most protection for your legs, definitely buy yourself a pair of bottoms as well. Again, like I mentioned earlier, with all the protective padding, ones that are made out of leather or some kind of synthetic fabric.
I've got Kevlar jeans.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Again, the proper stuff will have Kevlar built into it.
I mean, they were passed on from my parents to me.
Yeah.
Because they weren't quite right for them, so I've got them. That's how I've ended up with them.
But that is by choice, okay? That's by choice, for better or for worse. I prefer having more flexibility in my legs, so I don't necessarily... I have worn them on a few occasions, especially if I'm going out on a longer ride anyway. But no, I very rarely wear them if I'm riding locally.
Plus, those red ones in the rain, they make stain your jeans.
Oh, that's true as well. Yeah, the red dye goes. So if it's raining, the red dye goes through the groin. It's got like these breather holes through the groin, but the dye stains my trousers, stains my jeans underneath. God, that's embarrassing, man. The amount of times I've been to work and I've just got red dye all around my crotch. Like, that's awful, isn't it? Showing up to work like that. So, well, that's another reason. But I'll probably get a new pair at some point anyway. All right, boots and gloves. Boots and gloves. All right, my favorite. So get boots with short heels so they don't get caught on any rough surfaces. Make sure the gloves. I'll tell you what. Let's show you guys. Make sure the gloves cover all your fingers and the boots come above your ankle. Find a non-slip material that is durable, such as leather, that makes it easier to hold onto the bike in all weather conditions. Tuck in laces. Not only wear protective gloves while riding or during an accident. Oh, not only do gloves protect your hands while riding or during an accident, they will also prevent your skin from drying out. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. So yeah, it's quite funny as well because I've done a video about this with these boots here. I have a pair of these boots, and I've done a video about why you shouldn't buy them, especially if you are a beginner anyway. These boots will give you probably the most amount of protection.
I've got a pair. But
they aren't the most flexible. The boots that me and the wifey both use these days actually are half-size boots. They're far more flexible, and they still give you a lot of protection, but there's none of the hard plastics or anything like that. But they still give you enough protection to protect your ankle, your heel, and again, they're really ultra durable still as well.
For me as well, when beginning to ride, the sole of them were too thick.
Okay.
So I couldn't, because mine are quite thick soled, aren't they? Mine are more suited if I'm a pillion. If I pillion with you, they're the ones I wear.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they're really inflexible.
Yeah.
And I really struggle. Like they're great boots as a pillion, but not as a rider.
For me, they're very fatiguing. They're very tiring. If you ride with boots like these. Oh, that's the intro. Boots like these. If you ride with these over a long period of time, you'll find your feet are aching afterwards. You're just going to be so tired because obviously they're designed to be strong. So moving your toes for either the brake or the gear lever, it's going to be difficult to move every time. That's how they're designed. That's how they're supposed to be. But anyway, pretty much, I think I agree with all of that. Okay. Again, find a reputable brand. Yeah, that's the main thing. Find a reputable brand. Yes, they are going to be a bit more expensive, but they're worth it. All right, so learning the controls. All right, here we go. Let's get into the juicy stuff. Locate the throttle on the right-hand side of the grip of your motorcycle. Find the throttle on the right-hand grip of your bike. The throttle controls are the throttle controls the speed of the motorcycle. To accelerate and engage the engine, twist the throttle towards you. Yes. Make sure the throttle snaps back into place. If you turn it and let go, if not, have a mechanic take a look before you start to ride. Yes, that is true. I'm sure it'll probably mention about the clutch in a minute, but you don't just twist the throttle to go. You do have to engage the gears. Okay, here we go. It's actually saying about it now. Oh no, it's saying about the brakes.
Step 3 is the clutch.
All right. To be honest, I'd put this at the top, where the brakes are. That's the very first thing I wouldn't put the throttle at the top, but put this at the top. And also as well, they haven't mentioned about how you turn the bike on. How do you turn the bike on?
Well, I guess they're expecting you by this point to have had your...
Can't expect anything. If you are teaching someone how to ride a motorcycle from scratch or do anything from scratch, you have to assume that they don't know anything at all. You know, that they might not even have seen a motorcycle before. I mean, luckily these days, there's loads of references online with YouTube and stuff like that, where you can see the riders themselves actually engaging with the bike, actually using the bike, so you can kind of get some reference points there. But again, you're not necessarily going to know. Anyway, so find the brakes. Above the right grip and your right foot peg, yes, for the most part. That's not necessarily strictly true with all bikes, okay? So something to keep in mind. Most modern bikes post 2000, the year 2000, have this configuration. Locate the brake for the front wheel by the handle by the handle right above the throttle. Yep. Okay, we're right in front of the throttle. That should be right in front of the throttle. You will be using the front brake most frequently. Yes, you will. While sitting on the bike, you will find the rear wheel brake with your right foot. Depress the lever to engage the brake. Yes. Most of your stopping power will come from braking on your front tire. If you don't see a lever near your right foot or a rear wheel brake, consult the owner's manual to learn where your specific controls are found. Okay, yes, that is true. That is true. So, I mean, they haven't mentioned yet about what the rear brake actually does. So the rear brake is mainly helpful when it comes to the slow speed maneuvers, where you're doing the U-turns. When you're riding the bike slowly, it makes it a little bit easier if you drag the rear brake. So if you just press it down ever so slightly, so you start feeling a little bit of that bite pressure from the rear brake when you're going slowly, because it means you're able to apply a little bit more power, and it's designed to keep you upright a little bit easier. So that's what the rear brake is mainly used for. But yes, the front brake is going to be the thing that's going to be stopping you for the most part. Also, as well, when you go around bends and things, you do get some riders suggesting or encouraging people to use trail braking. Again, that's with the rear brake, just to help you slow down a little bit if you're going a bit too fast around the bend. All right, so familiarize yourself with the clutch and shifter. Most motorcycles are manual transmissions. Yes, it needs to be shifted up or down as you accelerate and decelerate. Look for the clutch above or in front of the left handlebar. It will look similar to the handle that controls your brakes. I think that, for me, is the biggest difference between riding a motorcycle and riding a bicycle. Because on a bicycle, both the brakes are on the handlebars. And you'll find that, if you're someone that's never, ever looked at a motorcycle before, you're not familiar with the controls whatsoever, then this can be something that can confuse you. So, yes, the clutch is on the left-hand side. The front brake is on your right-hand side, the lever on the right. Okay? From the shifter in front of your left foot. In front of your left foot, control it with the up and down lever. Keep the bike in neutral with your kickstand down when you're not using it. Neutral is usually found in between first and second gear.
So are they suggesting that every time you come to a stop, you put the kickstand down?
No. No. I don't think so. This is if you're stop if you're parking up. That's how I read it, but
why would your bike be on if you aren't using it?
They haven't showed you how to turn it on yet. So we don't know if the bike's on or not.
But they don't tell you. But they don't show you.
Yeah. That's,
so you could read this two different ways.
That is the first time they've mentioned about the kickstand, because all this you'd be doing while sitting on the bike. Yeah, when you're learning the controls, you actually be sitting on the bike doing this. So actually, for me, the very first thing that I would do as soon as you sit on the bike is to pick up the kickstand. Because that's the first thing you should do anyway. Whenever you are starting off riding, so you've parked the bike up, you're about to turn on the bike, you're about to ride away. The very first thing you should do is pick up the kickstand anyway. So it's just a good habit to get into. Most motorcycles these days, they have an automatic cutoff. So if you have the kickstand down, you try putting the bike in gear, whichever gear it might be, first or second. Well, it should be first, but anyway, the bike will stall automatically. It will cut itself off automatically. But there are some older bikes that don't do this, especially some cheaper Chinese models don't necessarily do this either. And that's the last thing that you want, is to be riding down the road. You go down a bend on the left-hand side, and the kickstand catches along the ground and it flips the bike over. Yeah, very easily done, because the kickstands are some of the strongest things on the bike. You can lift the whole bike up on its kickstand with almost any bike. So, yeah, very first thing you should do, the very first thing they should have mentioned is sit on the bike, lift up the kickstand. Many motorcycles work with a 1 down, 5 up shift pattern. That's not necessarily true either. Most modern bikes, post 2015, will have a 1 down, 6 up. Even 125s. The Wifey's 125, Ninja 125 has got 1 down, 6 up. Anything pre-2010, yes, this is probably the case. Especially with smaller bikes anyway. With bigger bikes, no. Most, if not all big bikes after 2000 have had a 1 down, 6 up. All right. So for these, so you don't understand, if you understand what that means. So first gear is when you push the lever down. Okay. Then after you do that, All the rest of the gears, you have to kick the lever up. So you have to get your toes underneath the lever and you have to kick it upwards. So you would, in the first, going between first and second gear is probably the hardest thing to do because you're having to go past neutral. So it says a little bit, it does say in there, doesn't it, about, it goes first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth, and things. Yeah. Okay. The hardest one is going between first and second because you got to lift your foot up, or it feels like almost higher than every other gear because you've got to get past the neutral gate. But once you're past there, every other gear going up is easy. You only have to touch the lever, move it up a little bit, and then it will move up into gear. So okay, that's very basic. I would say, they've mentioned about looking at your owner's manuals, check the controls and things like that. But before you start doing anything as well, I would recommend learning the light switches, learning the indicators.
Go on to that.
They do mention that. Okay.
Well, the lights at least.
Fair
I don't
enough.
know about indicators.
Okay, that's fine then. So at least they do mention it at some point. All right. So the next part here is practicing riding techniques. All right. So I mean, this guy looks a little bit more suited up, doesn't he?
Gets ankles.
So it still hasn't got any proper boots on, but okay, we'll gloss over that. At least he's wearing some kind of jacket, something, and gloves as well. All right, so get on your bike. All right, so approach your bike from the left-hand side and hold onto the left handlebar for support. Swing your leg over the seat. Which leg? You swing your right leg. Okay, swing your right leg over the seat, making sure to not hit your foot on the tail of the bike. Does that really matter? I mean, it's not really a big deal. You're probably just going to make a little mark on the tail. Not a big deal. Plant both your feet flat on the ground to get comfortable in your seat. Once you have your feet planted, you can raise the kickstand with the back of your foot. Ensure the kickstand is up before you start riding. Again, I know this is difficult because it's in written format, so they've got to put it somewhere. But at least they have mentioned here that the very first thing you do is use your kickstand. Okay, so this is a bit of a generalized statement here. Plant both your feet flat on the ground. You might not be able to. Okay, you might be a slightly shorter rider, or the bike that you are learning to ride on might be quite tall, so you might not necessarily be able to get both your feet on the ground. That's not a big deal either. As long as you can get one foot flat on the ground on either side, you should be okay. But it is easier. If you can plant both your feet on the ground, it is easier to learn, but it's not necessary. All right, so, okay. So it does say about how to turn on the bike. So start your engine and let it run for about a minute. So it says turn the key in the ignition. So, I mean, it does give you a bit of a thingy about where the ignition is. The ignition isn't always here.
It looks massive in that picture as well.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So in most modern bikes, again, the ignition is right in the middle of the handlebars, usually. But I've seen, especially in cruiser bikes, I've seen the ignition switch on the sides of the engine. Okay, so it's just something to keep in mind. I'm not a cruiser guy, so I'm not entirely sure why that is a design choice, but I've seen it before. I don't know how regular it is or how normal it is, but yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. So again, you can check your owner's manual for that. So turn the key in the ignition so that it's on. Turn the red switch on your right handlebar to the on or run position. So they are referring to the kill switch there, which is on the left-hand side. The left on your left hand, you'll have a switch, but it's not always red. In fact, actually, I think I've only had one bike where it's been red.
Mine not red. I think mine's
Yours
red.
Yours is red. Yeah, but I've seen them are coloured black before. On the ZH2, it's coloured grey, and it's a totally different mechanism as well. Yeah. So it's not necessarily red, but yeah, you will see a switch. It's just a rocker switch. It's either on or off, basically.
There's a picture a little bit further down. I mean, it's for lights, but it looks very.
It's okay. Yeah. So the wifey's right. It looks like this. This is what the switch looks like, but on the left handlebar. Yeah, it will look something like that. All right. Where are we? Okay, so ensure the bike is in neutral before starting the engine. Yes, that is. I mean, to be fair as well, a lot of modern bikes won't even let you start the bike if the bike is in gear, unless you pull in the clutch. If you pull in the clutch, they'll let you start the bike up. But again, best practice, always make sure the bike is in neutral before you start it up. for definite. Okay, so hold the clutch in before hitting the start button. Yep, that is good practice as well. Which is usually above the red switch. Are they referring to the same?
Usually below the red switch is marked the lightning bolt.
Before hitting the start button, which is usually below the red switch. Okay, yeah, because in this picture they've got a red switch here, which is on the right hand side. So it's a little bit confusing. But yeah, okay, we're still on the left hand side. Good. Marked with a lightning bolt. Yep. Pretty sure that's the case as well with most bikes. They have a lightning bolt signal or symbol. Let the engine turn over so that it's warmed up properly, running when you ride your bike. So when you start the bike as well, you have to hold down the button a little bit. You have to hold it down for half a second, maybe to a second, depending on the bike that you're riding. But then as soon as the bike fires up and it's idling on its own, so idling is when the bike is running on its own, that's when you can let your finger off the switch or the button, okay? So it says, always look on the gauge indicators of your motorcycle's dashboard to ensure it's in neutral.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry?
No, nothing.
What?
Sorry. No, nothing. Sorry.
What?
Nothing.
What? You went meh?
No, I just laughed. Nothing. Keep going.
Okay. If not, adjust the gear shift lever whilst holding the clutch to the neutral position. So a lot of bikes as well, they don't have a gear indicator, so you're not necessarily going to know what gear it's in if it is in gear. So the best thing to do in this situation is just to push the lever down. Push the lever down. If it can't go any further, you're pushing it down, it can't go any further, you know you're in first. So from there, you can get your toes underneath and you can lift it up. But you won't necessarily be in neutral, you might go past neutral. Yeah? The only way you can tell is when a little neutral light comes up. It's a green light with an N. All right? That's the indicator that says that you're in neutral. So make sure that you kick it up in between first and second roughly, and you'll see the light turn on the dashboard. That's how it should be. Okay? So that's something to keep in mind.
That's what I was laughing at, because I don't have a gear indicator.
Yeah.
If I'm in sixth, for whatever reason.
I mean, I don't know why anyone would leave a bike in sixth, but that's why I said push the gear lever all the way down. Keep going. Keep pushing it down like that until it stops, and you can't move it down any further. That's when you know you're in first, and then you can put it into neutral from there. Okay, so hold the clutch in while starting your motorcycle prevents the bike from moving forward if you aren't in neutral. Yes, but like I mentioned earlier, a lot of modern bikes won't even let you start the bike if the bike is in gear and the clutch is engaged, or the clutch lever is out fully, it won't even let you start the bike up. All right. If you have a kickstart bike, the starter mechanism is found on your right foot. Press down firmly to turn the engine over. Yes, that is correct, at least for the most part. I don't know of any bikes that have got a kickstarter on the left-hand side, but yeah, my first 125 had a kickstarter as well. It was mainly handy because the battery in that bike wasn't that great, and so the bike itself would struggle to turn over on its own. So I'd use the kickstarter more often than not. But bikes that have kickstarters usually have manual chokes as well. So this is something else that I don't know if they will mention this either, but it's usually a little valve that you'll see that you'll be able to twist. So I mean, I'll see if I can find out about. Let's see here. Choke. Motorcycle choke. Let's see if I can find some images here. So okay, that's right. Yeah, so the choke is on the left-hand side. No, what I was thinking of was the fuel reserve. Sometimes you'll see that there's a little valve on the fuel line. I mean, anyway, but that's for reserve fuel. But yeah, the choke you can usually find as well on the right-hand side. No, left-hand side. Left handlebar, and there's a little lever that you can pull down. So you can see it there. Yeah, where this guy here's got 2 fingers around it. So most kickstart motorcycles are carbureted, they're not fuel injected, so that's why they've got the manual choke. Right, it's just something else to keep in mind. What else? Yep. Okay, so I will say this as well, that when the bike is cold, if you have a Kickstarter, you will have to give it a few pumps. So usually on the 3rd or 4th pump, that's when the bike will go if you're starting it from cold. If you're starting it after you've ridden it a little bit, then it should go on the first one. And you wouldn't even necessarily need any choke either to turn it on. But yeah, pretty good. Okay, so keep your headlights keep your headlights on and turn signals. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, most bikes these days have lights on all the time. You can't turn them off. So you won't necessarily have to worry about that. But yeah, there are some older bikes, and best practice is to have your lights on all the time anyway. That's why I think manufacturers these days don't allow you to turn them off, at least not on the handlebars anyway. Locate your controls for headlights, turn signals, which typically located on the left handlebar. Yes, correct. Use them whenever you ride on populated roads so other drivers can see you.
I have a statement to
Okay.
that. Turn signals do not turn off by themselves.
They do not. No. So the way how the indicators work, so you would usually, I mean, if it shows you here, so this isn't something that you see very often.
That's a rocker, whereas mine's a switch. You
Yeah.
just flick from left to right.
More often than not, it doesn't look like this. It's actually like in fact, let's go on to this one here, and let's do indicator switch. This is probably going to give me like, okay, yeah, these things, but that's fine. Interesting. Look, that one's actually got the rocker.
Yeah.
So aftermarket ones have got the rockers. Let's see the one that I'm looking
You keep
for.
making
So,
that
right,
sound.
this sorry, what?
You keep making a really funny sound.
What?
When you're looking for things.
All right. I'm looking.
It's just funny.
Honestly, wifey's trying to embarrass me
I'm
in
not.
front of all you lot. She's
It's
shaming
just
me.
irritating.
But this is what the switch looks like here. So if I see if I can zoom in a bit further into that, maybe. Oh, that didn't work. Let's go back one. So you would use your thumb. You push the switch over to the left to engage the left indicator light, and you push it to the right to indicate on the right hand side, and then you push it inwards in the middle to turn off the indicator.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, because when you switch it, it goes back to the middle, doesn't it? Like the switch doesn't stay stuck to the left.
The switch should do, yeah, but it should be on a spring.
It'll go back, and that's how you push it in. You don't have to put
Yeah.
it back into the middle and then push it in.
Yeah.
It goes back.
Funnily enough, this is an issue that I had actually with my first 125. Again, it was a rubbish Chinese bike, and the switch inside the box was broken, and basically inside it looks like it. I mean, I don't know if this is the case for all of them, but at least the way how this one was designed, because I had to break it open to find out how to fix it. But basically, so it has like a little piece of plastic that's a triangular shape, and the thing that you use your thumb to move the lever along, or the switch along, it has like a little pin. The pin goes into the corners of the triangle to move it left or right, and then when you push in, it should push down the triangle. So it moves that. So it's literally like a little block that moves to the left to indicate on the left, moves over to the right to indicate on the right. When you push it in, it's supposed to push it into the middle. But because the little plastic block was broken, whenever I would try to push it in, it wouldn't actually move in. It wouldn't, because the little block. I think there was a piece that was missing, or that had sheared off, or something like that, on this little block, and so it wouldn't. I'd have to have an indicator on all the time, basically, until I managed to get myself home. I ended up having to buy a new one to replace it with, and that was a barrel of laughs as well, because I had no idea about wiring or anything like that. So that was all totally just touch and go with that. But yeah, so anyway, that was just an experience that I've had with rubbish bikes. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. But okay, so it looks like these kinds of switches, they do exist. I don't know how they would exist, or how they work. I imagine you push down, obviously, to indicate left, and then you would push a little bit on the right
to bring it back
to
to
bring
the
it
middle.
back, or you push down again on the left. I don't know.
I imagine, yeah, you'd push down, it'll stay there, then you'd try and level it again by pushing the other side.
This is a rubbish design, by the way. This isn't normal. This isn't normal at all. Rubbish design. What else? If your bike doesn't have turn signals, you may need to use hand signals. Okay. Well, you're talking very old motorcycles at that point, 50s, 60s. Stick your left hand out. Okay, so it's parallel to the ground. Blah blah blah. Okay, yeah. You can find all this out in the highway code here in the UK anyway, so you can look this up yourself if you don't have lights. But most bikes have lights these days.
And if
So I wouldn't worry about that.
people, I mean, what people could always do, I don't know, actually. I mean, people ride bicycles as well as motorbikes. They're probably used to all that
I
anyway.
think that the signals for bicycles, at least here in Europe, are the same as on motorcycles.
Yeah.
If you don't have any
But it's like
any lights.
it's the same as if you're in a car and you can't.
Yeah, and your lights aren't working.
Yeah,
that's
you
what you're supposed
do
to do, isn't it?
I don't know how you do it in a car. I can't remember, but
Yeah, I can't remember.
I'm sure there's
I think because you drive on the right hand side, so it's like this way if you're going right, that way if you're going left. I think it's this if you need to slow down or something like that. I can't remember.
I haven't a clue.
Can't remember. Anyway, shift into first and slowly ride your bike. So position your left foot so your heel is on the peg and your toes are near the lever. Hold in the clutch. Oh, so it says hold the clutch down. Okay, so you actually pull the clutch lever in. All right. The old dog. He's got a little food bowl down here. He's making an absolute racket.
He's just finishing off.
There's nothing in there. He's just moving his bowl around.
He's
Anyway.
it.
So shift to first gear by pushing the shift lever down your left foot. Your bike will start to move on its own without activating the throttle as you slowly release the clutch. Yes. Okay. This is something that I teach a lot. When it comes to clutch control, you do not need the throttle to move the bike forward. All you need is the clutch. Just feather that clutch. Get used to when the bike starts moving forward. All right. I've got, again, a couple of videos on that as well. So they should all be in that same playlist. Practice keeping your balance as it moves forward at slow speed. Keep your hand on the brake in case you start losing control. Okay. I mean, so if you are not using the throttle here, then you should be able to just dangle both your feet on side to side to help with the balance. Okay, so put your feet on either side of the bike, as close to the ground as possible, and almost like walk the bike. So the bike is moving off of its own power. It does, okay, and you kind of waddling the bike. They call it
power walking.
Yeah, that's usually the easiest way to get used to the balance of a bike. But once you shift into second gear and you start using the accelerator, you'll actually find that you won't need to have your feet on either side of the bike anyway, because the faster you're going, the easier it is to balance the bike. All right. So practice in an isolated section of road, in a parking lot that has little traffic. Yep, okay. If you let go of the clutch too fast, you may kill the engine. No, you don't kill the engine. The engine stalls. Okay, so
they're very different things.
That is wrong terminology there. You do not kill the engine. It's fine.
In America, they go kill the engine to make you say stop the engine.
Well, no, cut the engine. Cut the engine. That's you wouldn't say kill the engine. You know, if you say kill the engine, that means you destroyed it.
No, in America, when police stop you, they say kill the engine.
Okay, all right. Maybe that's an American term. I'm not that familiar, but yeah, but it will not destroy the engine. If this happens, shift back into neutral and start your engine again. This is something when you start off riding. If you keep stalling the bike, you may flood the engine, what's known as flooding the engine. So it has too much fuel inside the cylinders and there's not enough air inside the cylinders to spark. All right. If that happens, all you have to do is just give it a few minutes whilst the fuel vapor starts dissipating on its own. And then you can start the bike up again. But don't keep cranking the bike over expecting it to start. It might not start because you're just pumping more and more fuel into the cylinder. And it needs oxygen. It needs the air as well to ignite. So just keep that in mind. If your bike's not starting but it's turning over and you stalled it a few times, just leave it for a few minutes, five minutes or so. It should be enough. And then try turning it over again. It'll probably fire up. I mean, one other thing that you could do as well. I mean, this is something for more experienced riders, I would say. But you can give it a little bit of gas as well. So if it's still struggling to start up, you open the throttle a little bit. It allows more air into the cylinder. Yeah. So that's all a throttle is just a valve, and it basically turns open like that. So it's like a circle inside a circular tube, and it basically opens. Right. So this is closed, and it opens like that. That's basically all it is, and it just allows more air into the cylinders. That's how it's supposed to work. So if you open the throttle, it allows more air into the cylinders, and it'll allow you to fire the bike up just a little bit easier. All right, that's just another little top tip. What else? Oh yeah, I noticed what I'm doing now. Sorry, guys. I don't think about it. Yeah, practice power walking by walking forward with the bike slowly releasing the clutch to accelerate. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Good.
Every time.
Good. I totally agree with that. They haven't mentioned throttle whatsoever because you don't need to. When you're learning clutch control, you don't need throttle whatsoever unless you're on a hill. And even then, on some bikes with more power, you won't necessarily need to worry about that either. Even on a hill, you might not necessarily stall. So, yeah. But yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and they've got a little demonstration here with the clutch and the shift lever, the gear lever. Squeeze the clutch and shift gears with your left foot. When you feel comfortable going faster, turn the throttle slightly towards your body as you release the clutch to accelerate. You need to go out, bud. There you go. Once you go 5 miles an hour, 8 kilometers or so, ease off the throttle, squeeze in the clutch, pull your shifter up past neutral into second gear. Once you've shifted your motorcycle, release the clutch and accelerate again. So it doesn't really say much about how much acceleration you should use, which is on the right-hand side. That's the throttle hand. Do it a little bit by bit. You don't need a lot. The most embarrassing thing that happened to me when I was on my CBT, and this was on a scooter, the very first thing that the instructor said is, don't do this. Don't do that with the throttle. So what the hell do I do? The very first thing I do is ring like that. Don't do that. Give it just a little bit. That's all you need. To accelerate, even 20, 30 miles an hour, you probably only need about 10% twist on the throttle on pretty much any bike. So as you increase your speed, you need to shift into higher gears. As you decrease speed, you need to downshift into a lower gear. Make sure you let off the throttle when you squeeze the clutch in as you shift. Once you switch into second gear, you will have to shift.
You don't have to shift down.
You don't have to shift down to find first gear until you come to a complete stop. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You'll hear some people say about rev matching and that. You don't need to worry about that. All right, when you're learning to ride a motorcycle, that's an advanced technique. You don't need to worry about that. So yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I don't think there's anything else I would add to it necessarily. You can put the gear into first as you're still moving. You can do that, but you're putting a little bit more strain on the gearbox by doing that. It should be fine. If you're going less than 10 miles an hour on your motorcycle, then you can shift it into first anyway before you come to a stop if you want to. That's actually what I do. As I'm literally coming to a stop, I'll shift the bike all the way down to first. And then if I come to a complete stop and I'm waiting around, then I'll kick it up into neutral. Just because it's easier to do it that way for me. But yeah, it's fine. Oh, picture. Let's close that. Right.
I didn't know they did that.
Make turns by pushing the handlebar on the opposite side forward. So look the direction you're looking to turn. Rather than looking straight forward, slow down as you approach your turn by releasing the throttle. To make a left turn, pull the left handlebar closer to you and push the right handlebar forward. For a right-hand turn, pull the right handlebar closer to you and push the left one forward. Yes, in a simple sense, yes. Again, that's probably all you need. When you're learning to ride, that's all you need. But again, there's something you might hear about, and that's counter steering. Counter steering only actually becomes a factor really when you're going over 20, 30 miles an hour or so, really.
That's the next point they make.
Okay, but this is fine. This is fine.
But when it says push the right handlebar, it's
literally says there, for faster turns, practice counter steering. Sorry, darling, what were we saying?
When they say that push the right handlebar forward, you're not doing that.
No.
But
again...
it says you make too sharp a turn, it'll cause you to crash, but they're not really...
Yeah, again, you don't have to turn it much. You give it a little bit of a push, a little bit of a pull. In most cases, that's all you need. It's only if you're doing things like U-turns is where you really have to probably go from lock to lock with the handlebars. But if you're just riding normally, you won't have to worry about that. If you make a if you make too sharp of a turn, it will cause you to crash.
Or drop the bike.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what we've both
Pretty
done.
much. With a lot of this stuff, and this does apply pretty much to cars as well, but especially motorcycles, you only need a little bit of input to get a lot of output. Yeah, so you only need to pull the throttle back a little bit. You only need to use the clutch a little bit. You only need to turn the handlebars a little bit. You only need to use the brakes a little bit to get a lot of force. So I think that's probably one of the most difficult things to actually learn is how gentle you have to be with everything. You don't have to be harsh with any of it whatsoever. So the next one is practice slowing to a stop. As you release the throttle, slowly pull on the clutch, squeeze on the front brake to slow down, rest your foot on the rear brake, and press down slightly to slow down. Once you come to a stop, plant your left foot on the ground and keep your right foot on the rear brake. Yep, I agree with that. If you finish riding, shift your bike into neutral. Once you come to a stop, don't squeeze hard on the front brake or else you could cause your tyres to lock up, causing a skidding or accident. Yep. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Again, it goes back to the same thing I was saying earlier. Just be gentle with everything. Only apply more pressure as and when you need it. Perhaps one of the most dangerous things that you can do is even if you're doing 30 miles an hour, even 20 miles an hour, and you jam on that front brake, you put all your fingers around it, you really clamp onto it hard, your front wheel will lock up and you will drop the bike. Unless you're a really skilled rider and you're able to control that kind of wheel lock, most people can't. And you will end up crashing or at least falling over, dropping the bike. So in this kind of situation, just to kind of add to this a little bit, when you are looking to slow down, even if you're looking to slow down pretty hard, you do what's known as a preload. So you put a little bit of pressure, a tiny bit of pressure on the front brake before you start really pulling in. It's if you jam your hand all the way over it is when you start causing problems. But if you allow the weight transfer, so your body weight, the weight of the bike, to go over the front wheel just a little bit, just for a fraction of a second, then you're able to apply a lot more braking force without the front wheel locking up. And that's how you're supposed to emergency brake in that situation. Move on to more populated roads. So once you feel more comfortable with the basics of riding, controlling your bike, work onto roads with slight amounts of traffic. Keep your surroundings in mind as you ride your bike and be aware of other drivers. Okay. Pretty much. I mean, once you've got confident in an enclosed area where you can practice, then the next logical step is to go out on some roads and practice on some roads. Of course, yeah, as they mentioned, find some quieter roads really to start off with, so you don't feel so much under pressure. But yeah, what do you think of that article?
It was alright. I wouldn't take it as my sole bit of information.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good references in there, and I mean, this is coming from someone who knows how to ride a motorcycle to begin with. If you've got someone that's got no idea how to ride a motorcycle whatsoever, they've got no idea about anything, and they read this, they might not understand half of it. So this is something to keep in mind here with today's show, but the information there is fairly relevant, I think. There's a few little bits of extra that I would add in there and maybe even move a few things around. I think that's what I would do personally with this article, but I think for the most part, I think it's a pretty good read. But like as the wifey kind of alluded to, don't use it as your single point of reference. Again, look at YouTube videos, because again, riders, moto vloggers, we're using our bikes all the time. You can get a lot of information from looking at the vlogs themselves and how we ride and things like that, especially from the point of view, the POV of the helmet, because you can see our operation of the handlebars, you can see the operation of the throttle and the clutch and what have you. The only references that you don't get in that kind of scenario, like what you're doing with your feet, so the rear brake, the gearing, what have you. But yeah, honestly, there are tons and tons of really, really good instructional videos out there on how to ride a motorcycle. But as I kind of mentioned earlier, the best thing to do is to buy a bike and try practice on it. Ride it. As long as, like I said, as long as you've got a provisional license and as long as you're insured, I mean, even then, if you've got a private plot of land that you can take the bike to, you don't even need insurance. You don't even need a provisional license. But if you want to be a bit more legit about it, there's nothing wrong with buying a bike, getting it insured, getting your provisional license, and just practice. Again, as long as here in the UK, as long as you've got the L plates as well on the bike, which most 125cc bikes have these days anyway, when they're sold on to new owners, you'll be okay, and you'll be able to actually apply a lot of this stuff. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about in today's show, you'll be able to actually physically apply it as you ride, or as you practice. So okay. Let's see what you guys think. Yes, sorry, darling. What were you going to say?
I'm just looking at the time. Maybe we'll pick up Quora Digest next week. Only
I've
got a load of really good links I'd love to be able to get uploaded and stuff. So
we won't have enough time, unfortunately, to go through Quora Digest, which is a shame. But unfortunately, riding a motorcycle is not one of those things that you just... Because you can read this article probably in 5 minutes and think, oh, I know how to ride a motorcycle now. No. You can be discussing this for hours. And actually, before you actually finally at least get a glimpse of understanding on how to ride one. But anyway, yeah, let's see what you guys think. Hey, call on. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. Let's say hello to everyone. Lone Wolf UK. Good to see you, mate. Who else is that? Afnan, good to see you, mate. I hope I pronounced your name right. Excuse me if I haven't. Who else? Ultralight04, good to see you, mate. How you doing? All right, so let's see what you guys think. Call on. I used to have helmet and gloves only when I started riding on the street, and many rides with not so much more. Yeah. Still, if I have full gear, I'm wearing it. I like the way I look in leather armor. Yeah. Yeah, I would say I think a lot of people kind of would concur with that. Just wear a helmet. I think if you're going to wear anything, wear a helmet. Anything else only really becomes a really big deal if you crash. But as long as your head is protected, then you should be okay everywhere else. You might have some broken bones. You'll have some third, second, first degree burns or something like that from friction. But apart from that, you probably make a full recovery, depending on the severity of the crash, of course. But yeah, for me, the main things for me: wear your jacket, wear your gloves, wear your boots. I've done the exact same thing as well. When it's been really warm, I don't want to wear my jacket. Sometimes I do just go out in a t-shirt, but more often than not, I'm still wearing my gloves and I'm still wearing my boots. So it's up to you guys, but just wear a helmet. Wear a helmet, whatever you do. Afnan, a big thanks for helping beginner riders. Thank you, mate. That's what we do. Call on. Leather jackets need to be bare minimum of 1 millimeter thick. I got my jacket for $200 US, and it protected me well enough the last time I got in a scrape. Okay. Yeah, 1 millimeter thick. I mean, I'd even think a bit thicker than that, to be honest.
That's nothing, is it?
Yeah, I would have thought half a centimeter or so, 5 millimeters. That's what I would have thought. And then, of course, much thicker on your shoulders and on your elbows as well, where the main joints are. But yeah, at least if you're in a minor kind of scuffle, something like that should be fine. Because I mean, the thickness of the hoodie that I'm wearing is probably about 1 millimeter thick. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I personally would go a little bit thicker than that, but again, it really does depend on the situation, how much protection you really want. Because again, like I said earlier, you can kind of go a bit over the top with this stuff. You don't necessarily need to get the greatest, most protective thing in the world, because it's more than likely going to be very, very restrictive. Well, like I mentioned with the boots earlier. So there is a compromise, and I think it kind of depends on how you like to ride as a person and how you feel comfortable. Do you feel more comfortable with more protection? Then there's your answer. Buy yourself more protection. If you feel less comfortable with that, then get something that's a little bit more in between. Lone Wolf UK. The only law regarding motorcycle helmets I just don't understand is skis. Seeks. Oh yes, skis. Excuse me. Sorry. Sikhs are not legally forced to wear helmets while riding. In my opinion, a helmet is a must when riding a motorcycle. We did a video about this a while ago. Yeah. Because it was something you found out and you told me about it. And I was like, there's no way that's true. And it is. Sikhs for religious reasons, they don't have to wear helmets because they wear their turbans. They don't have to wear helmets on a motorcycle.
But
I think
what
that's
I would
mad.
what I would suggest is there's a comment in there from a Sikh who's actually put in his perspective. So I would go read that because it's really interesting, and insightful.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing.
He still wears a helmet.
I know that we try to be as inclusive as possible, and if for a religious reason you can't wear a helmet but you still really want to ride a motorcycle, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to be the one that's going to stand in front of you and say, sorry mate, you can't ride. Yeah. Again, that's down to the individual themselves, and in a lot of cases, you know, if I was allowed, I wouldn't do it myself personally, but if I was allowed to not wear a helmet, I'd be happy with that as well. I wouldn't mind. But yeah. It's difficult to understand because we are not Sikhs. Most of us aren't Sikhs, but it is what it is. And you know, fair play and respect to them lot. But but from what you're saying about that one guy that commented was a Sikh, he still wears a helmet. So
I believe so. I think he talks a bit about what he does to be able to put his turban on the way it should be and in the respectful way, and it's very interesting. So I would suggest people go and have a look at it because it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, fair play to him as well that he despite his religion, he still has the sense to put on a helmet anyway. I think that's pretty cool, and I think when it comes to your safety, I don't think religion really has a leg to stand on. God isn't going to swoop in from the heavens and save you from a crash. You know, your helmet's going to do that. You know what I mean? All right. Call on. Catapulting from a deer hit from triple-digit speed is no joke, but thankfully not my swan song. Real motorcycle jackets like mine protected me well that day. Honestly, there's no question of it. When you buy something decent, it will protect you better than if you look at the rock bottom cheapest thing you can find. 100%. Just buy from a reputable brand. Buy from Alpine Star. Buy from TCX. Oh god, there's loads of really good brands out there. Just you could do that. Have a little Google. The best motorcycle gear brands, and you'll probably get a load of really good articles giving you really good suggestions, especially at the different price points as well. Because you will find if you buy, say for example, a jacket directly from Yamaha or from Triumph or from BMW, they're going to be very expensive. Same as the helmets as well. You don't have to buy a jacket from them necessarily. They're going to be decent, but you don't have to buy something from them. But there are loads of independent brands that can give you pretty much just as good as, if not better quality and more protection for the same price, if not less, than what the motorcycle brands themselves can offer. But yeah, definitely. Call on. I do differ on that, especially when cultural or religious observances are held. If a Sikh wants to risk splitting headache, splitting headache if they go down, then they should be allowed to. I think I'm of the same opinion, to be honest. I don't like the fact that we are told we have to wear helmets by law in the UK. I don't like that. We should have the choice. I know that's a really stupid thing to say, because it still wouldn't stop me from wearing a helmet anyway. But and I understand why they made it a legal requirement, because helmets and all that, they literally do save you in even some severe crashes. They can really do a lot to save your life. So I do understand that, but at the same time, I do wish I had more freedom of choice personally in that regard. But yeah, I think I'm on that same side of the fence, mate. Lone Wolf UK agreed. Call on. I was just shocked to learn that some Sikhs are willing to risk that splitting headache. Yeah, I know. Yep, absolutely. Call on is their way, I guess. Not my culture, not my problem. I still mostly wear my gear when I go out. 100%. Call on. Guess I'd stick with my A-star boots. I never was fatigued, even when I was breaking them in. Yeah. I mean, I can only go on my own experiences, and to be fair, that is only with one pair of boots as well. There might be other brands out there that I've not tried that might be a bit more flexible, that might actually be a bit more comfortable, especially on those longer rides. So even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend getting the full-on size boots, see if I can bring them up here again so you guys know what I'm talking about. Where is it? Here it is. these ones here. Even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend these, don't be afraid to have a look at them and try them on and see how you feel when you wear them. You might feel differently to me. And I know that when I did that video about the boots that I'd recommend to wear, there was a lot of people that stood up for those kinds of boots. They said, no, they're fine. They give you the most protection. They are flexible enough. And, you know, it all comes down to you, really, and what is comfortable for you. So, but anyway, yeah, all that I can do is just recommend based on my own experiences. But yeah, that's why we do this. We get a little bit of a discussion going about that. So yeah, definitely make up your own minds there. Let's have a look here. Lone Wolf UK, my YZF has a 1 down, 4 up. That's so cool. That's so cool. I wonder how those gear ratios are kind of working then. Because to me, that sounds like they'd all be geared for just torque and horsepower rather than, well, most overdrive gears these days being for fuel economy. So, yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. All right. Let's see here. Call on. 1 down, 6 up. When did they introduce 7-gear motorcycles again? I have no idea.
You said 1 down, 6 up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, when did they introduce 7-gear motorcycles?
No, I think the confusion is that it's 6 gears up, 1 gear down, making it 7 gears, but it's not. You're saying 1 is down, then including neutral, it's 6 up, right?
Okay, well, maybe my terminology's wrong there. Because, yes, that's correct. It's 1 down, 5 up in the sense that you would kick up the lever 5 times to get into 6th. Because first is down. Okay, apologies. I got my terminology wrong there. You're right, Call on. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. So when you're moving the bike in the gears, so you've got the first gear that's down, so that's the first shift, and then the first upshift is second. Then you've got third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So yes, that's 5 upshifts in total and 1 shift downwards. Yes, thank you, Call on. Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean there. Thank you, mate. Yeah, appreciate that. Call on, the real owner's manual or the one that says don't drink battery acid or coolant. Yeah, I suppose you're right there as well. Call on, can barely plant both my feet on my FZ1. I can really stand tall on my R1 though. Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the bike, doesn't it? When it comes to your... Because as well, it doesn't necessarily matter how tall you are either. It matters how long your legs are. Mm. Because the wifey here has got pretty long legs, so for her, she's actually able to plant both her feet on the ground on pretty tall bikes. Were you able to on the ZH2? The other day when we were doing the...
I think I can tiptoe on both of those. I can on the ZZR, but I don't think I can on the H2.
Okay.
Please go away.
Stay there, bud. Stay there.
I think I'd have to tiptoe. I'm 100% sure I cannot flat feet both. I'll have to try it, but I'm pretty sure I can't. Yeah.
But it just goes to show again that it doesn't matter all that much. As long as you can flat foot 1 foot, which pretty much most people should be able to do, unless you are a pretty short person on a really tall bike, you should be all right in that sense. Ultralight 04. What's up, Goblin? How you doing, bro? Thanks for all the amazing videos. Recently bought a Ninja 125 because of you. Thank you, mate. Yeah, that's awesome. Good choice. Good choice. Lone Wolf UK. I actually tried that. Slowly releasing the clutch, my bike slowly accelerates to 32 miles an hour on tickover in first gear without giving it any throttle. Well, that's like you were saying, isn't it? 1 down, 4. Well, yeah, 4 gears basically. Then you're looking at quite a lot of speed in just from no throttle whatsoever. Even on the ZZR, I think was it 21 miles an hour I was able to do just. Oh well, no, that was in 6th. Yeah, that was in 6th gear.
I have to try it.
20, and I did. There was a video I did a little while ago. And I tried it out to see how fast I could go in 6th without any throttle, and I think it was only 21 mile an hour.
No, in first, I mean. You should try it in first.
In first, it was like 10. 10 10, 15 mile an hour, something like that. It was nowhere near 32 mile an hour. No way. Yeah, that gear ratio must be awesome. Fair play. Ultralight 04. What I found weird when going from a pedal bike to a motorcycle is when you brake, you pull on the back brake first on a pedal bike, but on a motorcycle, you do the front first, which I find really weird. So the main reason I don't ride bicycles anymore, but the main reason why I use the rear from memory is because it's very easy to flip yourself over the front wheel if you apply a load of brake on the front wheel on a bicycle. But on a motorcycle, because all the weight is behind the front wheel, I mean, you've got to apply an awful lot of brake to flip yourself over. Of course, you've got the stunt riders that are able to do it. But even then, they're using, I believe, they have to push down on the bike in order to get the back wheel up off the ground as they're applying the front brake. So they're not able just to use the front brake from memory, at least that's on the bikes that I've seen anyway. But yeah, it's very difficult to do on a motorcycle just because of the weight from my experience. Ultralight 04. To be honest, I think it should be law to wear a jacket as well. I've come off my bike at slow speeds and badly hurt myself, so I think jackets should be a must. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one because, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I do kind of agree in that sense. I understand why, because, yeah, you want to protect people. But I'm not one of those people that likes more bureaucracy. I like less. I like to have the ability to make my own choices, rightly or wrongly. That's kind of my belief. What do you think? Should it be a legal requirement to wear a jacket as well as a helmet?
Come back to me.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult because you understand why, but
then we're taking away people's freedom of choice again. And if people don't want to wear a jacket and they want to risk, having to have skin grafts and stuff, that'd be on their head. Whereas a helmet can literally save your life. It's a hard one because there's arguments for both sides.
Yeah.
It is difficult. Because then they're going to bring in all these what's the word? So I'm operating on one brain cell. I'm in so much pain right now, I can't think.
Well, I've had a difficult week this week.
Yeah. They'll start bringing in God, what's the word I'm thinking of? Specs. It has to be a certain spec.
Well,
and it'll have to be a certain type, and that usually pushes prices up. And
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, certifications aren't necessarily a bad thing anyway. Even now, if you have a jacket that goes through some kind of rigorous testing and gets certified for X amount of wear or X amount of damage, then actually I think that's a fairly good thing because it gives people a bit more of a peace of mind that it will actually protect them in a crash. So it's
a tough one.
It is a tough one. I don't know if that's something that I would want to enforce personally.
But like we say, there's arguments that can be made for both sides.
Yeah, but you are right though. You don't have to be traveling very fast to really hurt yourself if you're not wearing a jacket or boots. I mean, your mum broke her ankle, didn't she, or broke her shin? What was it when on the crash that your mum and dad had in France? She fractured her ankle. She
broke her ankle. And my dad broke his ribs.
And they were wearing their gear.
And a lot of it.
They were wearing all their kit. And they were just pulling off a roundabout.
Yeah, it was in France, a cobbled roundabout that was wet, and they were going less than 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, if that. They're probably going less than 15. Plus, depends on how big the roundabout is, I suppose.
Plus, they had airbag jackets on.
So, it's... Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all. Call on. We should be careful to not let perfect be the enemy of good. Alpine Stars and
Dainese?
Dainese. I've not heard that brand actually. Our £1,000 dollar etc. brand. Not all of us can swing that. There are lesser brands that do quite well.
Whilst
100%.
I agree with that, I do agree with that. My Alpine Stars jacket I got off eBay, and I paid probably about total £30, and I still got it, and it's in great condition.
There's nothing wrong with buying second hand when it comes to this stuff.
To jackets, yeah. Helmets, no.
Helmets, no. You always buy a helmet from new, but when it comes to jackets, because they are expensive things, you could easily spend 200 or 300, 400 quid on a jacket. Easy, sometimes more than that.
Yeah. You
know, sometimes looking on eBay, used is all right.
And don't get me wrong, you're more restricted on the colours and things like that. But I mean, it's not bright pink, but pink.
I mean, yeah.
People comment on it because someone once said, "Is that actually a real jacket?" I was like, "Of course, it's a real jacket."
Yeah.
But
I mean, would you believe though? I've had my leather jacket, my red jacket, for 14 years. It'll be 14 years this year.
Well, I've had my pink one for 10 years. That's when I had it,
and it's still good. It's still good.
The thing is, I got the pink jacket 10 years ago. I don't know how long the person had it before me.
Yeah, well, and the jacket that I got was used as well.
Yeah. So...
I don't think it was that well used, but yeah, it was used.
Yeah.
And they're still good. So if you buy something that is of decent quality, it will last as well, even if it is fairly expensive. But no, you definitely don't have to buy some of the most expensive brands out there. Just do a bit of Google searching, look at reviews, look at the ratings that people have given them after buying them, and make your own decision. But just don't go for the cheapest thing. I mean, usually again, you can make a pretty safe bet if you go like some medium range gear. So you look at the most expensive stuff, you look at the cheapest stuff, and you find somewhere in between, depending on the budget that you have, and you might be all right as long as it's a reputable brand. That's all I recommend, is just look at a decent brand. Lone Wolf UK, yeah, Goblin Rides. 1 down, 4 up is 5-speed. Yep, thank you. Yeah, I worked that out afterwards, after Call On mentioned it. My YZF has a 1 down, 4 up. Wish you'd give it a go. I really think you'd enjoy the experience. Honestly, from what you've told me about it, it sounds epic. It sounds like such a fun bike. Yeah, no, honestly, you are not. You're turning me around to the idea, for sure. Call On, I understand why too, but there are too many restrictions as it is. If someone wants to take the risk, let them. Yeah, 100%. Call On, I got both my tracksuits on eBay for less, and I would still buy another. They would altogether be roughly the same price as one brand new from the big brands. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. As long as it fits you, then you're good to go. Nick Bitten, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Still loving the ZZR model on the table. Thank you, mate.
Someone left a comment on a video that we were meant to do comments, but you guys know we've had a terrible week, so apologies there. We've asked where we got this from. This was actually a gift, but if you search for, just Google it, there's so many websites that do this. This was one that you actually had to put together, didn't you? You can get ones that come ready-made, but you can can you just grab the box, because that'll be easy. It's just behind the dog. But this one actually came in bits, and it's this. So if this is something that you're looking at, it's a Maisto, Maisto, and they do all sorts of different types on there. There's a website I found which does them as well. I can't remember what it's called. But if you are looking for something in particular, you can email them. They can also tell you if they do it, if they can get it in, stuff like that. So. Well,
you did try looking for one for the ZH2, didn't you? And you couldn't find one. So unfortunately,
not one like that.
It's
no.
not. They don't do all the bikes.
Not yet.
But at least, well, yeah, not yet. But.
So yeah, so if you want one, that's the brand.
That's the brand, yeah.
And that's the box and stuff.
Maisto.
Yeah.
Maisto.
Maisto.
That's the brand for this particular model anyway.
And there's quite a few that do that. Like I said, you can get some that come ready-made. They're not quite as impressive as that though. I think they come in the stand, and they're a little bit.
Yeah, and they're not quite as big either, because the Fireblade one that I had as well. No, it wasn't a Fireblade, was it? It was a ZX6R, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of broke off the little stand that it came in, so it's in that room over there actually.
Ooh, there's a H2 model on Amazon. I'll have to look at that.
I'll have to have a look. Okay. Yep. Definitely have to have a look at that. Yeah, that'd be so cool. Because that's one of the ones that I would like to get as well, is the CBR 600RR as well. I'd like to get one of those.
That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, because again, I'd like to have a kind of like a memento to all the bikes that I've owned. So, yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, all right then.
Lone Wolf UK, call on. I took a step back after throwing my R1 down the road. I got a YZF 1000R because of the more relaxed riding position, and my knees are not rammed under my chin. Yeah, they're still fun to ride as my R1. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's the R1 is just a bit more modern, isn't it? It just looks a little bit more modern. I think that's the biggest issue. Everyone's going to want the R1 over the YZF 1000R, but yeah, man. So honestly, and I bet you in terms of how it feels to ride as well, the power output probably doesn't feel too dissimilar from one another, even though there's a few years difference between them. So yeah, awesome. You guys know me. I've got to get myself involved on the Yamaha train. Yeah, don't worry. I really want to. I mean, I don't want to get any hopes up.
No, don't mention it.
Why not?
Not yet. Let's just wait, and then we'll mention
it.
No.
I want to mention it just so there's a bit of hype around it. So when I took my ZH2 over to Completely Motoring in Cheltenham to get the timing chain tensioner fixed on the recoil, I also inquired there about being a test rider, and I mentioned about the channel, and I mentioned that I'm upcoming motorcycle journalist and things like that, and they were very open to the idea of me testing out some of the bikes. Now, the dealership in Cheltenham, they have got a Kawasaki dealership there. They've also got a Yamaha dealership there as well, and they all have demo bikes there. So in future, I mean, I've given them all the information. I'm hoping they'll get back to me soon, but they'll probably let me feature some different bikes on the channel. So I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, they did seem open to the idea. So fingers crossed we can make that happen. Because that's the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the lack of bikes on the channel. And I know that. I've known that for a long time. So I'm glad that I managed to pluck up the courage to ask. And yeah, they seemed open to the idea. So we'll see in the near future what happens with that. I'll let you guys know. But hopefully they will give me an R1 to try out. Hopefully they'll give me an R7 to try out, and of course all the Kawi demonstrator bikes as well that are potentially on the table. So yeah, there's also there's also other dealerships around as well that I want to try and get in contact with to try and approach them with this same subject basically, and see what they say. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on this week. It's been a lot of stuff's happened this week. And hopefully for the better. So yeah,
some of it.
Well, you're on the mend now, aren't you? Anyway, yeah. So yeah, she'll be all right. But yeah, fingers crossed that we can make that happen. I'm really looking forward to it. Really psyched about working with Completely Motoring, and yeah, can't wait to see where that leads.
But yeah,
100%. Anyway, right.
I think that's...
Cool. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that we've kind of shed a bit more light on what's going on with the whole wikiHow thing. Yes, it is a good point of reference, but you shouldn't make it the only one. And I mean, yeah, if you just want a little bit of a quick read, then it's pretty insightful. A few bits missing, but you can definitely fill in those gaps with a few more Google searches. Like the wifey mentioned, we'll do the Quora Digest one another time, and we'll see if they're any better over on there, but on that platform. But I think we're going to call it for today. We haven't had any dinner, have we? So I'm absolutely starving. So yeah, we're going to get some dinner on the go, I think.
I've had a piece of toast. That's all I've had.
I've had a bowl of cereal. But yeah. Thank you ever so much for joining us today. Thank you everyone in the chat for your contributions. And thank you for correcting me again. Call on Lone Wolf. Thank you. Really appreciate that. That's why you guys are here to help us out when we do this kind of stuff. And honestly, your insights are wicked as well. So it's always better to have different points of view on these sorts of subjects, and because it just makes it more holistic and a bit more informative for newer riders, because that's our job. We want to try and get as many people involved in riding as possible. So yeah, you guys definitely help us with that goal. So yeah, thank you ever so much again. Tomorrow's video is what's that one? Oh yeah, it's gonna be about why we are so lucky to be riding motorcycles. That's tomorrow's video. So hopefully I will catch you all then. But if not, have a fantastic weekend. Here in the UK, it's a bank holiday weekend. I hope you guys all have a massive party or something just to enjoy the weekend. I don't know about you, but I really need these bank holiday weekends. They're really necessary right now. God, I'm burning. What's it called? I'm on fumes at this point. I feel like. But yeah, hopefully you all have a massive, amazing weekend. And yeah, we'll catch you all in next week's live show. So yeah, thank you so much again for watching. Take care.
Ride safe.
Ride safe. And we'll catch you all next week. Take care, everyone.